And welcome back. You're on The Money with me, Liam Halligan. Now, thousands of bereaved families across the UK face hard times as probate fees have risen again. This comes after the government introduced a flat fee of £273 to unlock a loved one's estate, increasing by 27% from the previous cost of £155. Now, the Ministry of Justice claims that the current system operates at a loss and places an unfair burden on the taxpayer. But what does this mean for families, and where can they go for more help and advice? Well, joining me now to talk about this is Priti Shah. She's a probate solicitor at OGR Stock Denton. That's a full-service law firm. Priti, thank you so much for coming into the studio. Now, I'm a little bit confused. I'm a bear of little brain. So this is... I thought when there's probate, so we're trying to unlock somebody's will, There's nothing untoward, it's just the legal documents there, it needs to be looked at by a lawyer, of course. I thought solicitors charged a percentage of the estate sometimes. So is this probate fee in addition to that? OK, so the probate fee, you're quite right, is an addition in that it is a fee charged by the court service. Now, actually... the fee to use a professional, it was £155, the probate fee. But if you did it yourself, it was £215. So they've now increased that to £273. So this actually is a modest increase compared to what they had planned initially. Before, they were talking about fees of £20,000 if your estate was $2 million. Wow. Yeah. That's the flat fee on top of what the lawyers will charge. Right. So some lawyers do charge a percentage of the estate. Okay. Not all lawyers work like that. A lot of lawyers like ourselves only work on a time basis. So we basically charge for the work that we do. Okay. So, you know, especially in this world where property prices are at its peak and the cost of living, and everyone's concerned about that. We try and be fair and charge just on a time basis. Because it is quite a difficult time for people, isn't it? Someone will have died, perhaps a parent, perhaps a sibling, an uncle or an aunt or something. You don't want to feel that you're being ripped off. And I'm not saying for a second that your law firm would do that. You very kindly volunteered to come and talk to us, and we're grateful. So I guess the legal profession does have a bit of an obligation to treat people with sensitivity during this key point, and I'm sure you do. Yeah, absolutely. It is a very difficult time when you've lost someone, and then to try and get your head around the probate process, having to pay inheritance tax is very difficult. So what we try and do by approaching a professional, they can guide you through that process to make it as uncomplicated as possible, and then try and achieve the outcome that they want in the most tax-efficient manner. So, you know, it does pay to see somebody who's qualified and who specialises in this area of law, because the savings that can be achieved from, you know, tax and obviously there is a small hike with the probate fee, but the tax savings that can be achieved far outweigh the additional cost of the probate. So by seeing a professional, they can help you guide through the process, make it as simple and stress-free as possible. Which is what everyone wants. Absolutely. And at the same time, hopefully save them some inheritance tax. So, Priti, let me ask you, let's pretend, obviously, this is all completely made up. There's no legal obligation here at all. But let's say you had somebody who died and they had a house worth, say, £250,000, and that was in a will, and so you'd have to pay the probate fee for the courts to check that will, make sure it was all proper and in order, and then there'll be other issues about inheritance tax and so on. Let's just park those inheritance tax issues. But how much could an ordinary family expect to pay in terms of a percentage of that £250,000? How much would the solicitors ordinarily charge, or how long would it take? So you're referring to solicitors' charges rather than inheritance tax? Yeah, let's forget about the inheritance tax, because that's too complicated. So, I mean, as I said, that some solicitors charge a percentage, and that can be from 1% to 3%, which which can eat into the inheritance quite significantly. So 3%, that would be £7,500. Yeah, that's before any work's done. However,
a lot of solicitors don't charge on that basis. As I said, we don't charge on that basis, and we would charge on a time basis, and it would really depend on how much work was involved in that, what other assets did the deceased have, apart from this property that you mentioned for £250,000.
You'd have to go to the land registry, check the person who says they own it, actually do own it, maybe go to the local council and validate the claim with them.
The process involves you finding out details of the deceased's assets and liabilities. Then you have to file, in most cases, a return with the revenue. And
to make sure the government isn't owed any money.
And you have to pay the inheritance tax before you can then go and apply for the grant of probate if inheritance tax is an issue. And then once you have the grant of probate, that's the stage where you can then proceed to transfer assets, for example, a property to the beneficiaries or cash in the bank.
It's quite involved. It's quite involved.
It is quite an involved process, and there are deadlines to meet, it really is advisable to make sure that you take help from a specialist, someone qualified who can help you guide through that process and make it pain-free.
But just finally, briefly, Priti, fabulous advice, very, very clearly expressed, if I may say so. One of our viewers has just asked, you can't avoid probate. It's a legal requirement, right? If you want the ownership transferred properly in a way the land registry or the law recognises, you have to go through that probate process.
OK, so it depends on the asset. There are, if the only assets are, say, bank accounts and the amounts in there are less than £15,000 in most cases, then banks will release that money without probate. But in most other cases, yes, there is a process to be followed to release those assets, which, as you've indicated, is probate.
Priti Shah, I know it's your first time on TV. That was absolutely fantastic. OGR, Stock Denton.
Thank you.
Your full-service law firm. Be great to get you back on the show another time. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for your time.
Priti Shah there.